Good afternoon and welcome to our council meeting for December 6th, 2021. And we have some staff introductions. So Richard Mack, if you'd like to introduce our new staff, some of our new staff.
Sure, thank you. So yes, we have 4 staff members that started with us last several weeks, so we're really happy about that. So first I'll start off with Brad Biet. So Brad Biet brings with us plenty of equipment and equipment maintenance experience. He was most recently a foreman at Lutz Building Center, and he's our newest member of the Public Works 2 operator, and he started with us on November 22nd. Welcome, Brad, and feel free to come up and say a few words if you like.
You don't have to, but you're certainly welcome to.
First off, I'd like to say hello, everyone. Thanks for taking me on, and have a Merry Christmas.
No, thanks, Brad.
Okay, next up we have David Sawyer. David Sawyer has a background in sales as a boiler operator. He has a background in safety and also possesses a 4th class power engineering certificate. He is our newest member of the Recreation Operator 1 position, and he started with us on November 15. So welcome, David, and feel free to say a few words if you like.
I know David there. I'm going to put a timer on you.
Hey, John, are we keeping this to 30 seconds for an
Yes,
ad? Or?
yeah.
I just want to say thanks for the opportunity. It's good to be a part of the city. I look forward to working in the public sector, and all the best, and Merry Christmas.
Okay. Thank you and welcome aboard.
Next up, we have Eric Dick. Eric completed his 5th class power engineering course. He has both interior and exterior building maintenance experience, and as well as construction experience. He's the newest member as well as our Recreation Operator 1 position. So he started November 22nd, and welcome, Eric, and feel free to come up if you also have a few things to say.
Yeah, it's nice meeting all you guys. It's exciting to start a new chapter in my life, just growing up in this city. So looking forward to it, and Merry Christmas.
And yeah, welcome to the team.
And last but not least, we have Robert Granger. He goes by Bob. Bob spent the last 25 years owning and operating his own business. So he brings us a wealth of customer service experience, maintenance and repair, as well as community connection experience. He is also a member of our Recreation Operator 1 position, and he started with us last week on November 29th. Welcome, Bob, and feel free to come say a few words if you like.
Hello, everyone. Good to see everybody, new faces.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, John. Just wanted to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank you for taking me on. I appreciate it. Awesome.
Now that you're part of the city, you're going to have to let me beat you in golf, eh?
Well, no, sir, I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way.
Welcome, welcome aboard, Bob.
We'll see you soon enough.
Now, Richard, are you going to, okay, go ahead there, Richard. Yeah. Okay, I know Richard made you talk up here, but we won't make you stay through the council meeting. You guys are welcome to leave here now. Okay. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order at 4:34. Moved by Councillor Goodenough that the agenda be adopted. All in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, moved by, I gotta make sure I got them in the right order here. Okay, yeah. Moved by Councillor Jessica that the minutes from the regular council meeting held November 1st, 2021 be approved. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Okay, we would like to acknowledge the traditional territories and the oral practices of the Blackfoot Nation, which include the Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation, Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. We're making this acknowledgement to demonstrate our continuing efforts to work together as we strive for reconciliation through increased and collective learning. So I think we're right there. Okay. We have a delegation here moved by Councilor Nesbitt that council accept the City of Brooks Library Board presentation as information. Lisa Patton, the floor is yours.
There we go. Thanks. It's nice to see some familiar faces here today. I'm here because we want to make sure that the council feels that they understand the library and the purpose of the library and what's provided to the community. And also, of course, we're an organization in the city that the city provides an annual appropriation to. And I have provided our package, our appropriation package that we send to you every year. And we can walk through it a little bit for your information and an opportunity for you to ask any questions. I'm not going to read to you the letter that's here. I'm sure that you read it in preparation. I'll just hit the highlights. This year we're presenting a deficit budget. I want to reassure you that we do that very mindfully. We are fortunate to have some generous annual donors, an active friend society. They do casinos. And we also have a popular low-cost children's program and a recently restructured fundraising program. And because of our confidence in those things, which are outside of our budgeted revenue streams, we're confident that a deficit budget isn't going to put us at risk. We are, along with those wonderful resources that we have in our community, we also employ what I term a reflexive spending strategy, which means if we don't make the money, if we don't get the money, we don't spend the money. So we don't budget for spending that won't happen if the funds don't come in, simplify that. So we are asking for the same appropriation amount this year as we've received in 2019, 2020, and 2021. We're doing this specifically because we want to acknowledge that it's not just our industry that's struggled through the pandemic, and the city has economic responsibilities that need to be addressed, and we're wanting to contribute to success in our community. In previous years, we have drawn attention to the fact that our local library our staff is underpaid by industry standards. And when you associate it with other communities of a similar size, we fall below the measure on that. We want to adjust that, but we want to give you plenty of notice. And so we are asking for that same budget as last year, this year. But we would like to let you know and give you lots and lots of warning that we intend to ask for a 2% increase next year. So just so that's on your radar, and you can take that into consideration. Our second page in what I've provided for you is our budget. It's a comparative budget, so you can see what we're doing next year compared to this year. The highlight here is that when you look at expenses, everything except the last 6 items, which is the wage and wage expenses, you can see that everything else is either the same or has been decreased significantly. That's a reflection of the library adjusting to our changed revenues over this year, which is a direct result of pandemic issues, of course. On our third page, this is a new sheet. I've never presented to council anything like this page before. Oh, wonderful, Bruce. Thank you for flipping it for me. I appreciate that. Okay, so some of the concerns that have come up when I've presented these packages before is that when comparing city funds that come to the library and county funds to the library, it's not always apples and apples. So I've tried to color code it for you and everything, and so I'll explain it to you here. I've taken our budget and I've reassigned it into these various categories that you see underlined along the left: wages, insurance and audit, shortgrass requisition, library collected and collection supplies, administrative needs, print and program supplies, professional training and memberships, and advertising. And you'll see that those bottom 5 items, you'll follow them across, and those the budget numbers are repeated under the column of library generated and donations and grant. Those are the portions or the line items of our expenditures that don't come out of city funds. We provide for that ourselves. If we can't raise the money through memberships or through library fines and that sort of thing, then the spending in those areas just doesn't happen. The other areas of revenue that we have, you can see the columns of the City of Brooks, the County of Newell, and the government, and this is the provincial government that gives us funds. And we've color-coded it a little bit because within all of these categories, there's more than one type of funding that we're getting. So under the City of Brooks, you can see we've got like a yellow and a purplish. The requisition type number 1 is the annual allotment. The second one is reimbursements for audit and our insurance costs. And so on our line items, they end up as separate things. But when we talk about the requisition, the allotment each year, we're just talking about that first requisition type 1. And so that's the number that we're asking for again this year. That's the same as previous years, $295,128. When you look in that column of purple, and you look over, you can see that it's covering expenses related to the shortgrass requisition and the wages of our staff. And that's where the funding that we receive from the city goes. The shortgrass requisition is a really great arrangement, and I want to make sure that you guys know about this because this is your opportunity to understand and be really accountable. If anybody asks you questions about the library, this is something you can point to and say, no, here's our accountability. The municipality has an agreement with Shortgrass Library Systems and determines an amount that each individual library in the region will pay per capita. After you give us our annual allotment, we then have to pay that bill that you have negotiated. So that's what we pay. When we pay that bill, it actually is just a spending account. It sits there, and we have to place all our orders through Shortgrass Libraries. I say have to, but it's a privilege for us because they can access a huge amount of discounts and shipping discounts and bulk discounts, and which they pass along to us. But that makes sure that all these funds get spent appropriately and responsibly, that they can only be spent on items and materials that are lendable to the community. So if anyone has any concerns, you know that these funds can't be used for anything else. They can't be used to increase my personal salary so that I can go on vacation more or something like that. This money can only be used for loanable materials, lendable materials to our community. To compare that, when you look at the next column over, the County of Newell, there's a note there that says it's paid directly by the County of Newell, and this is the point where we sometimes have trouble comparing apples and oranges, because the County of Newell pays the bill first, then gives us the allotment. You guys give us the allotment, and then we pay the bill. And so just to keep that in mind, when you're looking at the budget numbers, that's how they're represented. We don't have to represent the other. And then, of course, we get some funding, per capita funding, through the provincial government. You'll notice that outside of the requisition numbers, all of the government funding, all of the county and the city funding goes to our wages. And I'll let you guys explore those numbers on your own rather than walking you through them, because I don't want to put you to sleep. But when you compare there's a column up here that's recommendations and requirements versus our actual budget. You're going to see some disparity in numbers, and I just want to let you know what that is. Recommendations and requirements is an approximation based on provincial best standards guidelines and the Libraries Act. So the best standards is the recommendations, the Libraries Act is the requirements. There are some things we're required to provide to the community, and they come at a cost, of course. For example, we are required to hire, in a community of our size, we're required to employ someone with their master's degree in library sciences, right? And so that has a cost, obviously. There's an industry standard of what those individuals are paid, et cetera. And so we use some pretty, I think we use some pretty inventive options to fill our requirements and also be really resourceful with our funds. And so we are able to come in under sort of what I would say under budget for what the province requires us to have and what they recommend that we have. When you give that all a bottom line number, we're able to come in below that. I think that's as boring as we need to be with that, right? Okay. I want to just spend a minute to celebrate the wonderful library that you guys are providing for the community. The next couple of pages are taken from the provincial best practices report or best practices document. And I've just put it in here like a report card with some nice check marks and everything. They've given us a couple of areas where we're giving recommendations on how we operate: personnel, collection management, hours of operation, technology. Oh man, it's 4 pages, isn't it? That's terrible. Information services, and library resources and access. And across these, you can see in that personnel section, we're able to meet all of our essential requirements, and we even step into the enhanced, which actually isn't that great. But what I want you to keep in mind as you look at that we are operating with a skeletal staffing system. We actually do amazing in all of our other categories. Under collection management, we actually have a collection size that is in the excellent column. Our hours of operation falls in the middle in enhanced, though we're on the upper end of the middle. When we talk about our technology, we're able to offer everything from the essential list, everything from the enhanced list, and all but one item from the excellence list. So, and that's pretty similar in information services. Everything in essential, all but a few in enhanced, and we are reaching our way into the excellence area. As we look at that, and we review that our library resources are in a similar position, remember that first area of our report card was our personnel. We are doing a lot with very few individuals at the library, but we're able to be efficient and really make the most, and I think be responsible with the funding that we get from you. And that's what I'd like to highlight today, is that we have an amazing resource in our community. If you don't have a library card, please come down to the library. You don't have to get a library card, but if you don't have one, you probably haven't been in the library recently. Come down, I'd love to give you a tour. I'd like to show you what our community is actually accessing, because I think you'll be surprised to see that our busiest resources are computers and our printing services in the library. They're in high demand. I'd love to give you a tour. I'd like to share more about the library with you if you have some time. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions? Councilor Goodenough?
Now that you have John Nesbitt on your council, I'm going to miss you guys, and I think you guys did an amazing job. One question, though, I did have was you said the word skeletal staff, and I'm just curious, what would be an ideal staff amount? What would be your dream team?
Our dream team. That's a really good question. I should have anticipated that. Right now, there are, I'm sorry, I'm not as well prepared for that. I'd have a lot more staff. I would. I think that I would like to see us, when we look at that personnel list, I'd like to see us firmly in the enhanced area, which is a 3/4 full-time position for every 1,000 people. Right now, we achieve our essential best practice goal of a half a full-time person for every 1,000 people, only by splitting that position with our programmers. The requirement is a half a full-time person for every 1,000 of population, plus programmers. And right now, we have our program staff, our more experienced staff, we have them splitting their time between the circulation desk and their the work that you don't get to see. It happens all behind the desk. It's the ordering, it's the processing, all that sort of stuff. This stuff that requires some real skill and some real experience. And in a perfect world, I would have a couple more staff or provide more hours to the staff that we have to that mark of the 0.7 full-time hours per 1,000, so that our program staff could be more dedicated to the tasks that require their experience and skill. Does that-
Councillor Idris?
I'm still working to learn about this. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for the work you do at the library. I've spent 6 years on the board, and it was the best board I have been on in a very long time. So you do amazing work, and the staff do amazing work. My kids love the library, and they will go there any day of the week. Just a couple of questions about the budget first. So how are you doing this year? Like you are thinking, you are still, like your budget shows a deficit budget for this year. So based on that, relying on the friends and the other sources, where are you for this year?
We're doing all right. It's that reflexive spending strategy that we're employing. Things are tight, but the good news is when so we aren't doing programming in the library right now because that's restricted to us and we're not able to. But when you don't do programming, you don't buy supplies for programming. So that's what's keeping us afloat. We would really like to see, we'd like to see all of our patrons come back. There's a lot of lapsed memberships while we were closed, and that represents a lost revenue for us. So our revenue numbers are down. We have readjusted our spending to account for that, and we won't have to dip into our overages from previous years in order to cover this year. But we have had to adjust our budget this year to account for the reduced revenue.
So you are hoping for a balanced budget this year?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, good.
I should clarify, I mentioned overages. You, the city council, have left some money in our charge. It's funds that is put towards blinds and baffles in the library, for the library. It's a sound issue. The library is a nice big open space, but that makes it very, very loud. And there is some city funds that are in our oversight for a specific purpose. And the library board, has set aside any overages that may occur to go into that fund and accumulate until we can purchase those baffles. So it is a restricted budget every year, any overages, but outside of the funds that you've left entrusted to our keeping, those overages could help us if we got into some dire straits, but we're not in a position to have to access that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll stop there.
I've asked you this before, but I'll ask it again. Just about memberships, now what's the cost of a membership?
$10 a year for adults, that's 18 and over.
Yeah, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. I mean, I pay almost $18 a month in Netflix.
Yeah.
Never mind what I pay in my other subscriptions. Wouldn't it make sense to increase that cost over time? Like, I think people are getting a really good bargain at $10.
I agree with you. I think that folks are getting a really good bargain. And in fact, I've been working with our intern to prepare a document for the board to show exactly what is common in our community or across the industry. We do find that we are on the low end, but only by probably $2 industry-wide for libraries of our size. However, Alberta is a bit of an anomaly compared to the rest of the country, where most of the rest of the country provides free memberships for their libraries. So that is actually the industry standard. Free memberships is the industry standard. That being said, Alberta's just a little different. And so right now it's actually about 50-50. Half the libraries in Alberta are free and half are paid. Where you see free memberships though, that's where you see the city picking up the bill more. So that's not something we would recommend. We think that people feel value when they pay for their for their memberships. They are proud to pay for their memberships. People are generally pleased. They say, how much is it? And then we say $10 a year, and they, oh, yes, I can pay that. We do have hardship memberships that we extend to folks who can't pay, and we are working to streamline that application process so that it provides dignity for individuals who need to access that.
No,
That
yeah.
answer your question?
Like I said, I think people are getting a bargain at $10 a year, whatever. That's, less than $1 a month, whatever, on that. Like, especially when Tim's Coffee or McDonald's coffee is, like $1, $2 or whatever. But anyway, so.
I'd add that the e-resources that are accessible through the Shortgrass subscriptions that are provided to all the libraries in our region are worth so much more, specifically Gale resources, which is the same online courses that same instructors and everything that you can access through the online courses you get through Medicine Hat College. And you can get them for free with your library card.
Okay, and I'll reiterate what Mohammed said. Thank you for your work you do there. I don't know if you introduced us to your new board chairperson, but if you don't mind doing that.
I'd love to. This is Sarah Zottel that's with me today. She's our new board chair, and we're grateful for her work and her willingness to volunteer with us. It's quite a responsibility to chair the library board.
Thank you very much. I think Councillor Nesbitt had a question or a comment. Oh, Mohammed, okay. Okay, I saw your hand up there, sorry. Okay, yeah, Councillor, yeah,
I
Idris.
understand there was a partnership with JBS around memberships.
Yes.
What's happening with that?
The city, in their arrangement with JBS, and I don't know all the finer details of that, but what was approached to the library was that as JBS staff, as the workers out at JBS come and apply and get their memberships at the JBS Center, that then they would get a certificate and come and be eligible for a free library card for a year. And we're still operating on that, though it's dwindled significantly. There was a big rush right off the bat, but we're still providing those certificates. So every JBS employee that purchases their membership, I believe it's a year membership they have to purchase, and then they get a certificate they bring into the library.
And then do you charge the city by that certificate?
Yes, and then we charge back to the city.
Okay.
We've seen, I think that it's reasonable because we know that not everyone who purchases their membership and then receives that certificate, not everyone cashes it in. And a lot of times they'll give it to their kid, not realizing that their kid can get their memberships for free. So we've had plenty of kids come in with ones that oh, that's nice, okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Jessica?
Yeah, I'll just ask a question so people know I'm awake. And I'm familiar with all 4 libraries that have been here through my life, so I love books. I'm just looking at the budget and the wages, and I'm just curious, you've got the recommendations and requirements and then the 2022 budget, and on basic wages, you've managed to save about $130,000 on that, and then you kind of make up for it on the other side with the programming wages, where you've put an extra $118,000 into that.
Right.
So I'm just kind of curious, what can you take away from the basic stuff that you could divert into the program?
Well, that's where we were saying that we are able to use our programming staff for our basic circulation duties.
Okay, so they're multitasking essentially.
They're multitasking, absolutely. We have a certain percentage of their workday that is spent on desk helping patrons. But outside of that, other than saying that we have to have programming staff on top of the basic wages, there isn't much in terms of requirements for us. The only thing they specify is our individual with their master's in library science. So that's all that's reflected here, but there would be more because they do require us to have programming staff on top of that. They just don't say how many hours they have to work. So we aren't able to reflect that in their requirements. And a library of our similar size who's trying to operate with these same recommendations and requirements wouldn't be topping out at 362 because they would have to then find a place for their programming staff as well. I've only listed the requirements, not the actual need. So.
Okay, thanks again, Lisa, for your efforts with the library and for coming in this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. And back to the motion there. The motion was the council accept the City of Brooks Library Board presentation as information. All in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, moved by Councilor Nesbitt, the following items of correspondence be received as information, an update on council workshops and conferences, and accounts payable listing, and a council committee notes there too. So with conferences, I'll start with Councilor Goodenough.
Great, thank you. November was probably one of the busiest months, I think, on record for council, for myself anyway. Started off with the Alberta Rec and Park Association. And most of our conferences are still on Zoom, other than the AUMA, but majority of them are. But just to give you some summaries on that, Parks, I did 4 sessions throughout the week. Parks as neighborhood living rooms, alcohol in parks, new neighborhoods as community building perspectives, and we talked about in all the different sessions were so well done. They brought in professionals from Edmonton, from Calgary, and smaller communities. One of the highlights that I really enjoyed was new neighborhoods as a community and building perspectives, and how do we look towards the future after COVID of using multi-facilities for multi-use events, not just, we have the JBS Canada Center. It's multi-use, it's multi-purpose, and how do we look at that to partner with our local community groups? We also talked about parks as a neighborhood living room. If COVID has taught us anything, that we are social creatures, and we are designed to be social, and how do we turn our parks into that? And it's not just about putting a park bench there and a swing set, but it's how do we make it engaging for men and for women, for single moms, single dads, all those things. How do we make this engaging? And also we talked about dog parks, believe it or not, and the rise of dog parks in the communities and the needs for dog parks and the importance of that. And so it was very interesting to hear that. We also talked about, one of the sessions was on pathways and the importance of designing your city within your parks with pathways, and that was an important aspect of this conference. And so lots of great takeaways. I look forward to what our city has to do with our parks and our rec. Although I won't be on that board, possibly at the end of this session, but the conference was very valuable to understand. And understanding the budgets. We know that there's going to be changes in the finances of what for grant structures on parks, and how do we now look at that moving forward. November 10th, we did the Newell Regional Emergency Management Exercise. I want to thank Chief Swanson and Chief Luchis on bringing us as a city and a county and other interested parties into being prepared for emergencies when they happen in Brooks and in the county. We learned if we can learn anything from the summer fire in the county, is how every second matters, and it's important in that we understand the chain of command and our roles as a city and with the county, and every aspect of that. We also on November 12th did a tour facility. We went to the City Hall, and that was an interesting place. I never knew so many interesting people worked here. We looked at our facility buildings, the JBS Canada Center, the Fire Hall, Public Works, Newell Recycling, Newell Regional Landfill, the lift station, Lagoon, and the Lagoon. And just to see our staff, the behind the scenes, it was almost like going to the Wizard of Oz. I explained it to my family. You know, they pulled back the curtain and you see how everything works, and top notch, and my compliments to all of our staff and managers for how they work with what they have. My highlight, I would say, is being able to spend a lot of time in the Brooks Bandits area. I know I was a little drooling and watching and looking at all their stuff. I was quite excited about that. And then on to some of our main things that we did in mid-month of November was the AUMA Muni 101 and understanding our roles and responsibilities. And that, as a city council official, we only actually have one employee. who knew? And that's Mr. Alan Martins. He's our only employee. So it was good to just understand our roles and responsibilities and understanding risk and understanding our services and costs and funding. And so that was important to understand. And then on to the AUMA Convention, which is now called Alberta Municipalities. And quite a few sessions. And I'll share a couple more. I feel like Dan Klein, you know how Dan would just go through had a lot, but I'm learning there was a lot to do in November. And so took in some sessions on advocating for small communities, sustainable and environment. And I'm looking forward to, imagine, Councillor Jessica will have some things to say on that, on energy to waste, or waste to energy, and the Sawway project, and the importance of moving forward with this, economic development, asset management, understanding the risks again, and then we had our resolutions. A highlight for me, a part of that, was hearing our Premier speak and giving the direction for our province in moving forward out of COVID, and obviously hearing all of our provincial ministers and talk about what they've been doing behind the scenes. Last but not least, had my Community Futures Committee. It was great to be a part of that. Day training on the boards and how to run that. And I guess last but not least was the Brooks and District Chamber of Commerce AGM was this month. And we have a new president, Chip Cheney. I look forward to continue to serve on this board, but also that the idea of some new standards of service to our small, medium, and large businesses. And that is all, Mayor. Thank you. Any questions?
You're right, Councillor Goodenough. There was a lot in that month, wasn't there?
I don't remember going home. My
know,
kids
yeah.
don't remember me. Yeah. I'm glad your mic was off. All right. Okay.
Councillor Wardrop?
Thank you. All right, hopefully it's not too repetitive, but so during the week of the 15th to the 19th of November, attended the Munis 101 and the AUMA training in Edmonton. The Munis 101 was an excellent refresher, and I have to say refresher because the City of Brooks prepped us really well. It was a really great orientation. I really enjoyed the presentations from all the heads of management. And so it was a good refresher. It was really nice to touch base and meet a lot of new contacts from the municipalities all over Alberta and hearing their similar challenges and successes that they're seeing in their municipalities. The AUMA conference was incredible. I found it really inspiring and very educational. A couple highlights for me. I really enjoyed the sessions, especially the hydrogen energy session. I thought was really, really exciting and interesting. Some different ways, some innovations in energy in municipalities was cool to see. I also really liked the trade show. I thought there was a great opportunity to kind of reflect on big picture ideas for Brooks. There was so much going on there, so many opportunities potentially for us to move forward with. Things that I hadn't even considered. There's just so much out there. Let's see. I also really liked meeting with the RCMP too. That was really great. It was also just another reminder of how incredibly lucky we are in Brooks to have such wonderful RCMP staff. And overall, it was just really great to witness a lot of wonderful leadership and connect with people who have such great ideas. I learned a lot from so many different local leaders at the AUMA. And I have to say it was a great opportunity for team building with our own council. I thought that that was totally invaluable. I got to know my fellow councilors and my admin team a lot better, and I think that we, going forward, will just be able to work together even better. So I really thought that was one of the highlights for me. And also just briefly, the facility tour. I also learned a lot in the facility tour. Things like Joel said, behind the scenes, things that I hadn't very limited experience with. You know, I've been out to the landfill, but I hadn't really gone in depth and really learned about the details, how it all works. And just being there physically and being able to take it all in really gave me a really deep appreciation too for how much work and knowledge and expertise goes into all of our public facilities. And one more thing I have to say too is just that after I just have, I mean, I've always had a lot of I don't know, respect for our public works staff and our experts here out there in those specific fields. But I have so much faith in our in those staff. They're so incredibly competent. I left thinking like, wow, Brooks is in amazing hands. Like it was a really great experience for me. I think that's overall it. Lots of great highlights, and November was a great month. I look forward to doing it next November. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jessica.
Well, my month started off kind of slow. I had 3 meetings at the end of the month in one day, so that kind of picked the pace up. But I'm going to start off with the EUMA. It was kind of like going to Las Vegas the first time. It was just kind of mind-boggling. The trade show, there was very great representation with a good range of interests. It covered a lot of territories. You know, like guys like the railway organization was there, so we talked a little bit about crossings, which have been on our radar quite a bit in the past few years. A lot of networking opportunities. You know, you could see who the newbies were and who'd been there for a while, because there was a lot of communication going on. I think there was a lot of value in seeing the ministers put on the hot seat, answering the questions directly from the councillors throughout the province, and there was some tough questions asked and some good answers given. There was a lot of hoopla, which I thought could be cut out of there, like we could do without the rock band, but anyway, I thought, but then I'm an old guy.
Did you want polka?
Old-time walls, old-fashioned walls. So Muni 101 was extremely valuable, so everybody took it again, but for somebody that's new at the game, it kind of tells you how things work, what you can do, and what more importantly, what you can't do. You know, it covered a lot of ground very quickly, and they jumped around quite a bit in the manuals, so sometimes they're hard to follow, but we still do have the manuals, and very, very important, very valuable information there. So you mentioned we have only one employee, and that's poor Alan, because on the other hand, he has 7 bosses. So, and one of the things I learned that 90% of the time when you ask a lawyer a question, the answer is going to be depends. So some of the courses, so the ones I kind of focused on were on ones that were related to my new position. So how to start your council's term off right. So we had some pretty good speakers there. You can't run a municipality like a household. You got to recognize and work towards good leadership, and work as a team was a big part of it. There's a transition. We started this out as individual candidates, and now we're a team that has to work together and move things forward. They mentioned the code of conduct, which is something I'll have to look up. Sounds like we should have one someplace, and something we need to pursue and keep up to date. The difference in bylaws between procedural and administrative bylaws. Then we went on to top tips for working with your administration, and actually, probably the most thing you come out of there with is don't be a nuisance. The last thing anybody wants in any of these great places you went to see is somebody hanging around looking over their shoulders all the day. So what you want to do is build and maintain trust between council and administration, understand and communicate your shared goals, be respectful, and move the project for our project and our city forward, and how to create the environment for that. The SEWA project, so Paul Ryan spoke on that and gave an update on the waste energy project. And it's going through it has to go through this transition from old council to new council as well. And that's sort of where the project was focused up until the election. And so now they have received requests or expressions of interest from three big players that say we will provide the money and we will provide the expertise and we will build and we will operate a waste energy plant. All you have to do is guarantee we make money. So, and the way we guarantee to make money is we provide the waste to fuel the plant. And so the next stage in that project is going to be seeing whether it, the 60-odd member municipalities with the new councils are still interested in moving the project forward and assessing these proposals and coming up with a cost so that the municipalities would know exactly what they're getting into. So, but there was a lot of interest shown by the audience and quite a bit of support as well. So it was quite hopeful that way, quite promising. One of those 3-in-1-day meetings was Communities in Bloom. There are quite a few questions and there's not a lot of answers about how they're going to move forward. Some discussions whether it should continue as Communities in Bloom as a member of the organization, if that's something they have to have or they need. There was some discussion of whether it should look into going regional. And we talked about not just beautification, other factors. A lot of discussion was about the relationship with the city. So the membership is, well, I was kind of the young guy there, I think, or the second youngest, so it tells you something. And, you know, they're hoping to get a little bit more support from the city on maintaining and operating the Rose Garden. And so they're going to be hoping to put together some terms of reference for the relationship between the city and Communities in Bloom going forward. Then there was the Old Man River Services Commission, and basically they do GIS work for municipalities and approval work. So it is a business on its own. They had their elections and for a new chairman and vice chair, and there's actually competition for it. So that was kind of interesting on one of these committees. But you know, the revenues, they're looking around $2.3 million revenue annually. So it's a fairly big operation. The membership fees are about $2 million. And their expenses pretty well balance that. They're working towards a 5-year capital plan, which is now required by the province. They do have no infrastructure to maintain, but they do have building maintenance and equipment. So for 2021, that was dedicated about $593,250 to that. And they did there was quite a slowdown. So like in 2020, the revenue was for subdivision was $200,702. 2019 was $239,278, and 2018 was $352,668. So they had about a 30% drop in approval revenue. So everybody was hit by the same thing. Eco Brooks, it was almost all new members and a couple are missing. So more of the discussion is about, and we had no chair, we barely had a quorum. So more of the discussion was about where we're going to go in the next meeting and moving forward as to what we actually accomplished at that meeting. So we want to have a strategic plan for the January meeting. And we talked about congratulating the city on becoming a B city. One project they are working on is insulating city water pipes at some of the city facilities for saving energy. And there's a Veterans Park waste bin for $750. Talking about a marked flag program to remind students not to drop flags on the ground. No measure of effectiveness. So that one was new to me. Trash Tuesday they talked about in the past. Anti-idling has been a program that's been around for a while, but it's not at all the schools yet, so we're looking at expanding into more of the schools. There was a sign at the Catholic school, and it was taken down when they did their expansion, and it disappeared with the fence, so it never came back, so they want to hopefully replace that. And We had some discussion of the community gardens and changing the sign to something a little bit simpler to understand. And then, so we also talked about what other communities are doing with their community gardens and whether it worked, and maybe we'll talk to some of them and see about some of the options for moving it forward. So the election had to be tabled until January, and there was a scholarship given to a young student that had put together a PowerPoint presentation to introduce younger school children to waste reduction. So we got $500. And then also a request from Salty Mayor and Duchess for some funds to help them with, they want to have a program where you bring your container to the store to have it refilled. So they're working toward it. So, and then I guess the best news, we've actually got 3 applications for new members. So, some of us knew, between the people who were there, all of us knew at least some of them. So we just have to check the references for them and take it to council, and hopefully it'll be approved. There was some talk about the references to the emergency services meeting, and yeah, it was very informative, and it was also like council. Essentially, we were told what we can't do is what we should do, and keep our fingers the heck out of there when something bad is going on, because we were right on the bottom of the list of things they need at that time. So, but it was time well spent, and we think we're invulnerable, but we have to worry about things like we could have an accident with the rail line in the middle of town, something like Lac Magentic had. There even would be potential at certain times of year for a wildfire to reach the city of Brooks, and how do you respond to that? Flooding, not so much, but with some of the rain events we've had, or severe weather events in Canada, you never say never. And also there was a bunch of work done on the North Headgates not that long ago, because just because the dam sits there looking solid doesn't mean it is. And if it ever went, well, then we would have a situation there as well. And the tours, well, of course, the highlight was the landfill. But you know, I have to echo the comments that were made by my fellow councilors, and you know, the thing that really showed me how well things work is when we saw the nice, shiny new main lift station over by the horticultural station, and the fact that it had failed and sewage was backing up to the point that manholes were popping off the line running back towards the city of Brooks, and the city of Brooks Waste Management never skipped a beat. When we flushed our toilets, they flushed like they were supposed to, and they coped with that. So again, hats off to all our city departments for the job they're doing.
Thank you, Councillor Jessica there, and thank you for your day at the landfill too. And I learned that I don't call it a dump. It's a landfill. Okay, Councillor Nesbitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow council, guests. Guess I can't talk about that. I don't want to be second last anymore. So I guess what's left for me is I guess I'll just talk about the convention a little bit. Myself, along with 5 other councilors and the mayor, traveled to Edmonton on a Sunday last month to get a head start on our Monday meeting, educating us on essentials of municipal governance, I should say. This 1.5-day workshop educated us on the exact procedures that should be enacted when following municipal governance. There, I need that smile. It not only provided us with information on how we should proceed with governance in our municipality, but also how we should not approach issues under our control. And excuse me if I repeat things that have already been said. It was emphasized to us on many occasions that as councillors, we only have 1 employee. That's Alan Martins, and he's allowed to slap us on the head if he wants to. Why should the CEO have all the fun? We should also be aware of recognizing and respecting the roles and responsibilities of all municipal staff. A few of the items that stuck with me are how and why bylaws are formed, and why a resolution is different from a bylaw and that is not as strict. We discussed our role in municipal planning and development and how to achieve an effective collaboration. We have to learn how our municipalities plan and grow, as well as the development processes. The instructional book that we were using was scrutinized by all the instructors, and we were taught the way policies were structured and how they were implemented. We discussed counselors' roles in municipal leadership. It's very interesting discussion on how important budgeting is and financial administration processes work, and understanding council's role in financial statements and audit requirements. This workshop was well worth the time involved and opened my mind to new and exciting procedures. We had an appointment with the RCMP and provincial officials, letting them know how much we appreciate their involvement in our community, as well as the challenges we may face in the coming year. MPE took us out for dinner on Tuesday night. NACO followed the same tradition on Wednesday night. I gained 6 pounds. A lot of great discussions were had by all. My first and best seminar I want to report on was top tips for working with your municipal administrator. The first of 5 steps was to clarify communication styles and processes. I'm sure we all have ways of doing things, but respect and knowledge of a subject and communicating these values to your administrator is of utmost importance. Make sure you're consistent in sharing your information with all council members, whether you like them or not. Create a shared understanding around the appropriate time and space for certain types of conversations and relationship building. Healthy dialogue is supported by creating space to check in where council administration can give critical feedback before any other issues arise. Clean the air. Provide space where questions that can only clarify or eliminate potential misperceptions about the operations of our municipality, and the obvious tactic is to strengthen through networking with your CAO and all of council. I enjoyed listening to the official opposition leader, Rachel Notley of the NDP, and I felt her pain as she was trying to gain support from the audience for their ideas on running our province. Wage benefits is a tough nut to crack with the audience that are mostly paid by salary, but she did qualify for a partial standing ovation. The United Conservative Party leader, Jason Kenney, was speaking in a more upbeat state, although the audience didn't catch on until he was half finished his speech. With the price of oil rising out of the dust, he made sure to amplify the fact that billions of dollars would be taken off our provincial debt. Oil is back, but I would suggest we watch out for the undermining determination of our Prime Minister. A little political stab there. I too went on the tour with the lady and gentlemen of all the facilities in our community, and I thought it was unbelievably fantastic. I really enjoyed it, even going down in the sewer hole. That was great, as long as we didn't have to stay down there too long. I feel this, our area, our municipality is very well run, and I commend the people that are doing all the hard work to keep us safe. And that's my report. Thank you, Ray, for saying everything I was going to say.
And thank you, Councillor Nesbitt, and thanks for driving all the way up there and all the way back there on that.
And thank you for sleeping all the way home.
No, I never slept at all. That was Councillor Goodenough there. Okay, Councillor Idris.
So the funny spoke, the analytic spoke, the informative spoke, and I don't know what I'm going to say. It has been actually a very busy month, as Joel said, and it was my first month on council, and I'm thinking, you know, is this the same? Is this the same pace? But I'm hopeful that things will calm down. I attended the emergency exercise that was run by the Newell County, and things are going well, especially with Lisa being here. There was a question there asking about who attended level 1 exercise, and she raised her hand, level 2, level 3, level 4. And by the end of it, she was the only one raising her hand. So we are in good hands. The tour was a highlight for me for the first month on council. I'm surprised it's the first time happening on council. I actually suggest this to be part of orientation. I think it's very well needed for council to know what's happening on the ground. I learned a lot, and I have to give it to Don and his team. It was the main highlight for me for the whole tour, public work and the work they do. A lot of people that do amazing work that we don't know about, that if they don't do their work, we will know about, and we will know that things are not going well if they didn't do their work. But we don't know that they are there because their work is being done very well. Thank you, Don, for that. Then we went to AUMA. I will agree with some of the things that was said about the first 2 days, the orientation, but I actually didn't find it very useful. I'm sorry to say that. I think the orientation that was done here was more than enough, and actually I think our orientation should go through the AUMA, and we should do it there. We did much better work here compared to the lawyers up there. The lawyers read the act, told us about the act, but really it didn't show me a lot in the 2 days that we had on the orientation. The conference was amazing. It was, you know, for a political junkie who loves to listen to the news and follow all these people that run our province, to be there and talk to these people and question them and sometimes be happy to see them and sometimes be not happy to see them was a highlight. So it was a very good exercise. For me, the main thing about the conference was the fellowship with the counselors. We had interesting conversations. Some of them happened at 5 a.m. in the morning, some of them a little bit earlier. But we had learned a lot about each other. And for a team that needs to work for 4 years together, I think that's a very important part. Some of the presentations that I attended, there was some work, not all fun. Some of the presentations that I attended was the Indigenous presentation. I thought it was done very, very well. We knew, as a counselor in the community in the city of Brooks, I take it on myself, and I think we should really look into this, about forming more beneficial and more meaningful relationships with our Indigenous neighbors. I know we do not border an Indigenous community immediately as a city, but I think we should have relationships. We should do when we do acknowledgements and when we do land acknowledgement, things like that. Be really conscious about it and know what we are doing and know what it means, and have our Indigenous elders and our Indigenous knowledge keepers to share that with us, so that we will be able to do that in our community. The meeting with the RCMP, a number of fellow councillors talked about it and talked about, you know, how we appreciated them and how we told them about the good work that they have been doing here. But actually, the highlight for me is that they were very impressed with us as a community. They kept talking about all the programs we have and how they are going to take this to other places, and how our community is a model for them to talk about and to share with other communities, and they want other communities to do what we are doing. So I think we should be proud of that, and we should keep trying to do better. Another thing in the conference was our own Barry Marshita, and how everyone really like believed in him, and he was given an award there, and he was there introducing us, and he was there connecting us with people that we needed to know about and we needed to connect with. I really applaud his leadership and his commitment to our community and to the province. And then we did, I did a media training a couple of days ago. There was a media training that was over. I did it. It was actually a very good training. It was the same people that did the mini one-on-one, but this time it was a very good training. And one interesting thing is that, you know, as counselors, as an organization, we do have a media policy. But as a counselors, when we get inquiries from media, where does that, in terms of, where does that policy fit, and where does, because sometimes you are asked about your own opinion in things like that, and how can you align the two? How can you still follow the policy that really doesn't apply to you as a counselor because it's your own, while the code of conduct applies to you? So how can we focus more on the code of conduct for us as counselors versus the media policy that we have for staff and for the organization? Finally, I attended a couple of committees. I actually wasn't sure if here is where we update on committees or here is where we update on workshops and conferences. I attended the BRZ, the Safe Committees Committee, and the Shared Services Committee. That's it. Yeah.
I'm not going to, most of the councilors had talked about a lot of stuff there, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of the stuff there, but as part of Alberta Municipalities, I had a chance to attend the first Mid-City Mayors meeting, and that group is lobbying the government to pay for the RCMP retro pay there. So that's kind of an important thing that we have to work towards, because that's going to cost us a lot of money there. Attended a number of sessions, an economic development one there. They talk about starting up a new business, what's important, the availability of a skilled workforce, labor costs, access to highways and land, and quality of life. And I also attended a Canada Pension Plan session. And they were also talking about hydrogen, which Councillor Waldrop talked about there too. They figured that it could be a $2.5 trillion industry in the province here at some point down the road here. And I know we have talked about the hydrogen hub in southeast Alberta here. And the workers will have the same skill sets as the oil and gas industry, which is important there too. And also attended that session on waste to energy where CEWA was talked about. And I thought that was kind of nice. They kind of mentioned that, the important, I think most of us, or personally, I think it's an important thing for our area here too here. So just one last note here too. I attended the Alberta Seniors and Community Housing South meeting in Calgary last week. Former Councillor Dan Klein, so he gets 2 mentions here at this meeting today there. He had been chairing that committee, but that was his last meeting, and some of the issues with the other ones in the area there, people are finding, having a difficult time finding qualified workers, especially cooks. And for the Brooks area here, they've come up with innovative ways to reduce the vacancies there. And most organizations have gone through struggling with COVID and are adapting to that there too. So those from the workshops there too. Good job by everybody on that. Yeah. Good in-depth stuff there too. Okay, back to the motion there. To the motion. All in favor? Okay. Okay. Moved by Councillor Wardrop that December 3rd, 2021 be hereby retroactively proclaimed as International Day of Persons with Different Abilities in the City of Brooks. And Richard Mack will talk to us about that.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mayor and Council, over 1 billion people, or approximately 15% of the world's population, live with some sort of different ability. Persons with different abilities, often known as the world's largest minority, often face barriers to participation in all aspects of society. For this year's International Day of People with Different Abilities, we celebrate people with different abilities while acknowledging the challenges and barriers that they counter. In recognition of this day on Friday, December 3rd, Mayor John Petrie experienced the everyday challenges that people with different abilities face, such as crossing the street or even grocery shopping, by joining members of the community, Emerus and Tracy Oliver, to navigate downtown in wheelchairs. And in addition, in partnership with the Handy Bus, the City of Brooks will also be giving away locally made Christmas ornaments to the Handy Bus clients. As a previously scheduled council meeting was canceled, administration is recommending that December 3rd, 2021 be retroactively formally recognized as International Day of Persons with Different Abilities in the City of Brooks.
Thank you. It was a sort of educational and an eye-opener to go around in a wheelchair Friday afternoon. I don't have the arm strength, to do that, but I guess you build it up over time. But it's amazing the challenges you run into. We do a good job in the city here with what do we call them when we onto the sidewalks, the sloped things there. But sometimes it's still a challenge because there's a little lip there too, eh? And then even getting into the post office, they took me over to the post office, and the ramp, I think, I don't know if it's, maybe should be 30 degrees, but I think it's about 70 degrees. Or it felt like that as I was trying to get up there. And then coming down was another thing too. And then we went over to have something over at Steaming Cup, and even to get into the narrow doors, you can kind of do it, but it's a tight squeeze. And then we went over to 7-Eleven, and I could get a big gulp, which was no problem. I think I could manage that. But to go around there, and if you had to get groceries, it would be a challenge because you wouldn't have anywhere to put them. And what Emerus was saying was you need help from other people, especially if you get groceries and things like that. But I think the important thing that we got, two things that got out of there is in our handicap spots. Well, we talk about handicapped. Sometimes there's not enough room beside that in order to take out a wheelchair. And, you know, like if you have to take your wheelchair out and move that up there too. So it's maybe something we have to look at, you know, down the road, is to make those handicap spots maybe a little bit wider than, you know, just a regular car space there too. And then the other thing too, and you can't do that with, you know, I mean, when we're planning sort of future subdivisions and developments, is to make sure that, you know, the handicap stuff is taken into account. And I think that certainly is with our JBS Canada Center and with the CRA and things like that. Any new buildings, we certainly factor that in there. But thanks for lining that up today. And it was, like I say, very educational and eye-opener day for me there too. So. And just one last thing too, I think we were going to bring this motion up a little bit earlier, but we missed a council meeting because of Alberta municipalities there, so that's why it's a little delayed on that one there too. So, okay, any questions on that? Okay, to the motion, all in favor? Okay, carried. Okay. Okay, moved by Council Nesbitt that Mohammed Ibrahim, Anne Marie Phillipson, and John R.V. Diaz be appointed to the Safe Communities Committee for first 3-year terms commencing December 7th, 2021, and ending December 6th, 2024. And Lisa will talk to us on that.
Thank you. The Safe Communities Committee was formed in 2012 out of the former Policing Committee, and they currently have 4 vacancies. At their last meeting, committee members reviewed the applications for 3 interested parties. Mohammed Ibrahim is a community leader actively involved in immigrant communities. He's volunteered with SPEC, BCIS, and as a translator for medical services. Anne Marie Phillipson recently retired from County Council, and she has an interest in making the region safe and inclusive. And John R.V. Diaz would like to increase his community involvement and believes that being part of the committee will assist the RCMP and the city. So the committee is putting forth formal recommendation for formal appointment of these individuals, and they have since received additional applications for the final vacancy, and we'll put a recommendation forward at that time.
Okay, any questions? Just a comment there, we appreciate all the people that come forward to volunteer on our boards there. So I want to send out a thank you to those 3 and to all the other ones that come forward too. Okay, to the motion, all in favor? Okay, moved by Councillor Idris that the Newell Integrated Child Care Society's insurance deductible payment request of $1,000 be paid out of the City of Brooks operating budget. And Todd will give us the info on this.
Oh, there, I'll repeat that. So, on November 9th, 2021, a letter was received from the Newell Integrated Child Care Society in regards to a request for financial support for society deductible for damages caused to their electronics desk and filing cabinet as a result of a water leak that was in a common area at the CCC building on October in 2021. Please note that the following clauses in the lease agreement between the city and the society states: each tenant is responsible for maintaining all aspects of their space under the lease to it, except for those items for which the city has accepted responsibility as specified in the agreement. Without restricting and generally of the foregoing, the tenant is responsible for a general accepted custodial and building maintenance requirements, maintaining all leasehold areas in compliance with the Alberta Fire and Building Codes requirements, tenants' fixtures, equipment, and appliances, leasehold improvements, all kitchen and bathroom plumbing in exclusive use areas, and plumbing repairs if occasioned by tenants' misuse or abuse. The damage to the electronics desk and filing cabinet was submitted under the society's tenant insurance policy. As the City of Brooks general liability insurance would not cover those specific items. The deductible for the society policy is $1,000, and attached is a replacement value of the items that they sustained in the damage. As water leak was located in a common area of the CCC building and not in the lease area of the society, administration recommends that the city pay the society's deductible. Recommendation. Therefore, administration is recommending that the Newell Integrated Child Care Society Insurance deductible payment request of $1,000 to be paid out of the City of Brooks operation budget.
Any questions? Oh, Mohammed, or Councilor Idris, sorry, yeah.
So do we know what was the reason for the leak?
Yeah, there was a washroom upstairs in the spec area that there was a hose that blew off a toilet going into one of the toilets, like a flexible hose, and right directly below them, that's where the damage was done. So it was a common area, and it's covered out under our insurance, but our insurance would not cover their electronics or their stuff, so.
So it's not the result of like not properly being maintained or
No, it wasn't no fault of anybody's, it's just something that just happened, and that's the reason why our insurance didn't cover it. If it was our fault, then our insurance would cover their damages, but it's just something that happened.
Okay, to the motion, all in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you, Todd. Okay. Moved by Councillor Goodenough that the updated building development and planning application fees be approved and become effective January 1st, 2022. Alicia.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. In January of 2021, council approved extending the waiving of development permit application fees and the reduction of the building permit fees by 25% for the year of 2021 to help residents and businesses with the COVID pandemic. With the new year approaching, fees are to return to normal. I've attached the fees, which will come into effect January 1st. We have made some changes to this fee list, and I've highlighted the areas that have been changed. We did some recent changes to the land use bylaw, and then some other changes are just to provide clarity to the public. So I'll just go through those quickly. The first highlighted one is additions/intensification of use. This used to also include structural alterations. But with some of our red tape reduction in our land use bylaw amendment, structural alterations no longer require a development permit. The second one is shipping container. This isn't anything new. It's something that we have already charged this fee for. We just felt it was useful to actually include it in the list. The next one, alternate energy permits, fire suppression, sprinkler systems, and HVAC installations. Again, these have always been charged based on the project value. Again, they haven't been listed in the fees in the past. The new multi-unit dwelling duplex townhouse apartment, this is just a wording change. We used to have 3-plex, 4-plex, and condo, so we've just updated the wording. Again, accessory buildings and structures over 10 meters squared. This was a correction in the land use bylaw. It used to say 60 meters squared, but it was amended to 10. Additions, secondary suites. Again, this used to include structural alterations. As mentioned before, development permits aren't required for structural alterations. Secondary suites has now been added under residential building permits, as we've already always charged the minimum fee for this. And then wood burning stove, fireplaces, hot tubs, swimming pools, and alternate energy permits. Again, we've always charged the minimum fee, and it's just never been listed in our fees. So therefore, staff recommends that the updated fees be approved and be effective January 1st, 2022.
Any questions? Councillor Goodenough?
Thank you for your report. I'm curious, how much did the development fees, how much did we spend last year, I guess, during the pandemic of 2020 or 2021, sorry? Do you understand that? Like, how much did we cover? How much did we waive? Yeah.
Through the chair to Councillor Goodenough. I don't actually have that information in front of me, so I can certainly get that to you.
I guess I'm curious,
Yeah,
did this help people move forward in development, doing projects that they needed to do? Was this a benefit? And would it be a benefit if we kept it for another year, or do we see that as a hindrance? Or is it going to slow down more development, getting these permits?
So I'll just comment that we had waived the fees, but we had never removed them from our budget. So that revenue is part of our budget.
Okay.
So we would probably want to look at adjusting our budget if we had to. Again, I don't have those revenue numbers in front of me. Sorry, I didn't anticipate
No, it's okay.
the question, but I can get those to you and we could see what type of an impact it would have.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, any other, Councillor Idris?
Can we then table the motion till we get that information?
Go ahead.
Excuse me, is that a motion to table?
Yes.
Okay, there's no debate on that motion, so you would vote on the motion to table.
Okay. You want to make a
Yes,
motion?
I'll make
Okay.
that.
Okay, moved by Councillor Idris that the motion be tabled. All in favor? Anybody opposed? How did you? So 3 against 3, so the motion's defeated. Okay. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, we're back to the original motion then. Okay, the original motion by Councilor Goodenough that the updated building development and planning application fees be approved and become effective January 1st, 2022. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Carried. Good. Okay. I'm watching the clock here so I don't go over the hour and a half. I can get. Yeah. Okay, moved by Councillor Idris that the 2022 fuel tender be awarded to Petro-Canada, and Don will talk to us on that.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. Each year, the city requests tenders for the following year's petroleum products. This year, we received 2, one from South Country Co-op in the amount of $358,000, Petro-Canada in the amount of $339,000. The difference between the tenders is approximately $18,767. In previous years, co-ops paid back its members 5% on fuels and 10% on lube and DEF fluid. These numbers fluctuate, but cash back can be expected. Previous years has resulted in the city receiving between $8,700 and $13,000 in equity. However, $18,767 is a significant spread, making Petro-Can the more favorable tender. So therefore, staff is recommending that the 2022 fuel tender be awarded to Petro-Canada.
Any questions? Okay, to the motion, all in favor? Okay, it's carried. Yeah, we can do one more. Yeah, we got time here, okay. Moved by Councillor Wardrop that the following changes to boards and committees be made effective December 6, 2021 to the date of the 2022 organizational meeting. That Councillor Nesbitt moved from Grasslands Regional FCSS to the Recreation and Parks Board. Councillor Wardrop moved from the Joint Shared Services Committee and the Intermunicipal Development Plan Committee to Grasslands Regional FCSS. And Councillor Goodenough moved from the Recreation and Parks Board to the Joint Shared Services Committee and the Intermunicipal Development Plan Committee. And Councillor Jessica be appointed to the Southern Alberta Energy from Waste Association with Councillor Prentice as the alternate member. Any questions? Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Oh, it's to you, yeah.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council, at the organizational meeting October 25th, we did set our appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions, and that took effect from that day until the date of the 2022 organizational meeting. Just want to add, just after that, we did do our internal orientation, and I am certain that I told everybody that the CAO was a counselor's only employee, so I'm glad that we sent you off to external trainer where you would actually listen to what they said. But anyways, at this time, to better accommodate meeting and time commitments, we recommend the adjustments be made to those appointments, that Councillor Nesbitt moved from Grasslands Regional FCSS to the Recreation and Parks Board. Councillor Wardrop would move from the Joint Shared Services Committee and the Intermunicipal Development Plan Committee to Grasslands Regional FCSS. And Councillor Goodenough would move from the Recreation and Parks Board to the Joint Shared Services Committee and the Intermunicipal Development Plan Committee. And as well, the city may have a council representative and an alternative on the Southern Alberta Energy from Waste Association at SAWA, as was talked about earlier today. Suggested that Councillor Juska be appointed to SAWA with Councillor Prentice as the alternative, and of course, the recommendation is those changes.
Any questions? Okay, to the motion. All in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, I need a motion probably from council. Okay, I got one here. Okay. Yeah, moved by Councillor Idris that this council meeting continue and exceed the 1.5 hour duration limit stipulated within procedural bylaw number 1111. Any questions? Go ahead.
So in order to do this, you need 2/3 of the members present to agree with this, so you need 4 yeses on this.
Okay, Councillor Idris. Yeah.
I believe it says, because I did, since you caught me last time, I did read it twice today. It says 2/3 of those present. Hope I'm right this time.
Yeah.
One for 2.
Okay, to the motion, all in favor? Anybody opposed? We've got it both ways there. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we can continue on here. Okay, moved by Councillor Prentice that the, I can't do that. Moved by Councillor Juska that the November 2021 financial variance report be accepted as information. And Shelley's going to talk on this one?
Yes, I am. And I'm glad that motion was made because I could never finish it. Okay, so the attached report finds the city about 91% of the way through the year, through the 2021 year. And the reports compare the actual year-to-date costs with the 2021 budget. So I do report these monthly to council. And of course, some of the new councillors haven't heard all of the reports that have happened through the year, but I do try to give a brief description of new potential variances that have been noted for the year. So since the last report, there are a few notable events which may impact our financial status in the 2021 year. So the final levying of property tax penalties has taken place for this year and left a negative variance of almost $73,000. Those lower penalties are the result of the city temporarily lowering some of our property tax penalty rates, or lowering all of our property tax penalty rates since the inception of COVID. That was done to assist residents who were struggling with paying their property taxes on time through the pandemic. Next, a significant favorable variance of approximately $102,000 has been identified in salaries and benefits within the administration department year to date. This is due to some departmental vacancies, which include the receptionist position, which will not be filled moving forward, and that was done as a cost-saving initiative. To date, the city has over $197,000 remaining in our snow removal and street sanding budgets, and the moment I wrote this, it started to snow. This amount could be used up by the end of the year if we did experience significant snowfalls. However, if there is a favorable variance, as I had mentioned during the budget meeting, at the end of the year, an amount equal to that remaining balance will be moved to our stabilization reserve pursuant to our reserve policy. A favorable variance has been identified in storm contracted services due to fewer video inspections and repairs. It's anticipated that the full budget will not be spent in 2021 due to the scheduling of these services, resulting in an approximate favorable variance of about $67,000. And finally, I have mentioned this in most of my reports, but we continue to monitor our recreation revenues and expenses in light of regulated facility closures and restrictions. On a prorated basis, we are under budget on revenues by about $176,000 and under budget by expenses by about $951,000. And capital expenditures, which is the second report that's attached, are on track this year with many of our major projects well underway or complete, and there are no new variances to report with that. So administration recommends that this report be accepted as information, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, to the motion, all in favor? Carried. Okay, moved by Councilor Jessica that the COVID-19 updates and initiatives be accepted as information. Alan.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council, the following is a brief update on the COVID-19 situation. Data from today shows that the city of Brooks has 5 active cases, and fortunately, there are no more deaths to report. All current public health measures that came into effect in September continue to remain in place, including the restrictions exemption program. And although Alberta children in the 5 to 11-year-old age bracket are now eligible for a pediatric version of a COVID-19 vaccine, the province has indicated that youth will not be subject to the constraints of the restrictions exemption program. Children under 12 will continue to have access to businesses and venues participating in the restrictions exemption program, regardless of their vaccination status. The restriction exemption program has been working well with these younger children, being able to access facilities with their parents or guardians who are able to meet the program requirements and for participating in youth activities while following current provincial health measures. Here at the city, we continue to review and monitor all our facilities, including our recreation facilities, and at this time, we feel that no changes are needed to our requirements. Turning to vaccinations, along with the initial 2 COVID-19 vaccinations that everybody could get before, the COVID-19 vaccine booster shots will soon be available to all Albertans aged 18 or older. The booster shot rollout will also be done in stages based mostly on age, and those 60 or older are now able to book their booster shot appointment. Eligible individuals can book appointments online with participating pharmacies by using the Alberta Vaccine Booking System. Albertans can also call 811, participating pharmacies, or participating physicians' offices. For those eligible for the booster shot, the first appointments actually became available today. The additional age groups are to be announced as quickly as possible. As mentioned earlier, children aged 5 to 11 are now eligible for a pediatric COVID-19 vaccine. Parental consent is required and can be provided in person or by signing a consent form. I believe we've all heard by now of the new variant announced on Friday, November 26th by the World Health Organization called the Omicron variant, I believe. They do say it has many vacations, and I guess time will tell how difficult this variant will or will not become. We'll continue to watch to see how this unfolds, and that concludes my report, and I'm willing to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, to the motion then, all in favor? Okay. Okay, moved by Counselor Nesbitt that bylaw number 2124 being a bylaw of the City of Brooks in the province of Alberta to establish off-site levies for land that is to be subdivided or developed within the City of Brooks be introduced and read a first time. Alicia.
Thank you, through the chair to mayor and council. The city's current offsite levy bylaw 0621 was established by the city in 2006. Due to changes in the Municipal Government Act, the city engaged Corvus Business Advisors to update this bylaw, amending offsite infrastructure included in the bylaw in alignment with the city's recent actual expenditures, receipts, latest capital and master plans, and ensuring updated costs and development forecasts are reflected fairly and equitable in new rates in accordance with Section 648 of the Municipal Government Act, thereby ensuring a financially sustainable community. The attached bylaw 21-24, the proposed new offsite levy bylaw, and its Schedule B, which includes the City of Brooks 2021 offsite levy update done by Corvus Business Advisors, outlines the methodology and information used in establishing updated transportation, water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater offsite levy rates for the city. The new rates are established based on a per net hectare and based on the location in the city. The summary of offsite levy rates by area per net hectare table is located on page 8 of the Corvus Business Advisors report. This bylaw establishes the offsite levies for land that is to be subdivided or developed within the City of Brooks. Therefore, staff recommends that council provide first reading of bylaw 21-24.
Any questions? I think most of us attended that session there that afternoon. It was very educational, informative for most of the councilors there. So, okay, to the motion then. All in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, Sandra, you're up.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, these mostly are for Shelley, please. Shelley, the final levying of property taxes on page 38 in the document. Sorry. The final levying of property tax penalties has taken place for 2021 and left a negative variance of almost $73,000. I believe the budget documents that were discussed last week showed it at $59,000. So could you please tell me what the difference is, and are you definitely going to be using that $59,000 for the upcoming budget?
Sure. So the $59,000 that we proposed to reduce the revenue by in the budget because of the shortfall was an estimate that was put together at the time that we did our forecasting in September and compiled our budget information to present to council. The last penalty levy was levied just after November 1st. And when I went to do this report, which was my first council report after that time, I did notice that the actual shortfall was closer to 73. We will likely, I wouldn't recommend changing our reduction of revenue from $59,000, that $59,000 reduction. Budgeting is always an estimate, so there's a lot of factors that can determine what our penalty revenues are. The amount of people that don't pay, the amount of collections we're able to do, there's all sorts of things. So even though there is obviously our forecast wasn't as accurate as the real number is, it was what we based that proposal in the budget for. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. The next question I had for you had to do with recreation. You say on a prorated basis, we're under budget on revenues by $176,000 and under budget on expenses by $951,000. What if that number is not prorated? How similar would they look?
So when we say prorated, we mean based on the number of years it's or based on the number of years that number of days that we've had in the year versus the full budget. So because we don't know what's going to happen in the last month of the year, we prorate the budget down to the 91%. That's why I always say we're 91% through the year. So basically, all we've done is taken both budgets, prorated them by 91%, and that's where we're at. So I guess at the end of the year, we would have the full amount to know what the full effect is. We do know that in the last month of the year, a lot of the expenses come through, come in. There's a lot of things going on, and so that could change quite a bit, but.
Okay, that's wonderful, thank you. Mr. Martins, I'm sorry, did you say that there were 2 additional deaths from COVID?
Sorry, no, there were no additional deaths.
Thank you. And the last question I have, I am just wondering, Mr. Martins, if you could please update the community on the broadband.
We will be bringing that to December 20th on an administrative report for council. Thank you.
Sorry, the next council meeting is the 16th or the one, sorry, I don't know when the next meeting is.
Do I have the date wrong?
No, December 20th.
December 20th.
It's the Monday meeting, yeah.
I did say the 20th, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sandra. Okay. We'll move by Councillor Idris that the meeting move into camera at, as soon as Sandra gets out of here, at 6:13. Yeah.
Don has to stay. Don, you